about that. We had SunHee, Fiona, Ara, and myself. Friday, two evenings ago, the artists have sharing or working process showing also in this studio, working on the topic of death stuff. I think today we probably will touch on the performance a bit, but I am more interested to talk about our perception of death, or what have you found out through these 2 months residency at this place, or has anything changed in terms of your understanding or your perception of death? Has that changed before you start and now, and anything you want to share? One thing we have been trying to explore in this project and also through this residency is how we approach, how our cultural context, the society and historical context, everything impacts our approach to a certain phenomenon or a certain idea. Like death, it has to be an idea or some kind of knowledge that we were told, because we are all alive, we haven't experienced death ourselves. So in this project, we try to find out what is influencing us. So for today's discussion, this is something I would like to hear from you as well, from the four of you. And to start with, I've prepared, I'm doing this again. I have prepared some keywords or description that I think very often comes with death when we are describing that or when we are thinking about that. The first one is sphere. I have to show it to the camera. Sphere. Can you hold it?
That's the point. We have to hold it.
Another one is solitude. Okay, this is solitude. And a third one, shame. I want to elaborate a little bit because I mean, at least to my understanding, in our culture, death is not something you should be proud of, even though you are not accountable for that. But it is not something you should be proud of. In our culture, if somebody passed away, if one of our relatives passed away, we try not to go out to meet other people because we are supposed to be carrying some sort of something negative. You look really surprised.
Where are you from?
The mask. But some people are nodding.
Supposedly mourning. You know, that's what we mean. Some kind of mourning.
Maybe that's where it started, but somehow I think there has a sense of shame attached to it now. At least, well, that's my taking. We can talk about why I feel that way later on, right? So, this one. Another negative description, uselessness. So, obviously you are useless because you're dead, right? You don't exist anymore. So, SunHee again has that.
Oh, okay. Useless. Yeah, I quite like it.
This is not so bad.
Yeah, comparatively, this is not so bad. Well, but finally, I have something positive, transcendence.
And she's holding it.
Prisoners now, we should take a break. I would like to start our conversation with anyone who wants to start. You can start with one of these keywords. Pick a keyword that resonates or you think you have something to talk about. I talked about shame just now for a little bit.
So you mean, just to clarify, you mean shame for as the person who just sent someone away, not as the someone who just died?
No, I would think it's not like my take is it's not on the person who died.
For those who left behind.
Maybe it's not about any person in particular, but it's a kind of situation or a kind of atmosphere that lingers.
Oh, you mean so? Oh, it's like it's a shame that so and so passed away.
No. Shame being really you have done something.
Exactly. So
the opposite of something you can be proud.
I think both.
Both.
I think the person that's there, and also the family or who's close to the victim.
Sorry, I'm from Mars, so you don't have to hold it like this.
But I think it really depends on what's the cause of the death, in a way. Maybe sickness, definitely. If you sacrifice yourself for some good cause, maybe no.
But committed suicide probably
Definitely.
leave a sense of shamefulness in the family.
This is very straightforward. My mom died when I was born. Nobody would talk about her. And I wasn't really in any position to ask any question about my mom.
Okay, why don't you start? Now that you've started.
I mean, that's how I felt.
What have you figured out?
Well, I mean, this is like, for my grandparents, they think, hey,
Because you brought bad luck.
Yeah, that's right. That's why they wouldn't allow anyone to talk about it, in a sense. And for that, I could feel, the pressure around. Even my brothers and sisters, when they were young, nobody would mention a single word about my mom. I said, what's wrong with her? Right? Is it me or her? Okay. Then of course, my feelings back then was me. Because if it wasn't me, my mom wouldn't have died. Right? So that's the kind of logic. But until much later.
No, she would have died, but not just then.
Not just then.
Yeah.
Of course, we all die anyway, sooner or later. That's right. But the whole logic is sort of, to think, oh, my mom wouldn't die if it wasn't you.
You were the cause.
Yeah, I came to cause.
Did they give you some kind of pressure or impression?
Well, you can feel it.
Oh.
You can feel it. Even up till now, of course, I could open to talk about my mom. And I could even talk about, hey, my mom is in me now. How I live means that it's the best way to get to know her. But of course, people say, oh, you're just trying to, idealize the form of living, so to speak.
Romanticize.
Yeah, or romanticize it, maybe. But I truly believe in that, though, for me, because of genes, right? We all talk about genes, we all talk about things passing on.
So now that when you recall, if you do recall what you felt as a kid, when people, stop talking about your mom when you were around, or make you feel that you were the cause of your mom's death at that point, do you feel guilty, or did you? Is it the right word to describe how you felt?
I wasn't sure. Precisely speaking, I just feel, hey, I wasn't supposed to talk about that. Even like when you're in primary one, there is a lesson called My Family, right? And then the line is saying, a family, you gotta have a father, and a mother, and this and that, right? And I said, does it mean that I don't have a family? Because someone's missing. And nobody would talk about that too, right? As if that's what a family should be. So I think psychologically, it builds blocks in you. Until later days, you try to kick away these blocks and try to examine why they're being there. And so, to me, that's how I related to shame in a way. And I remember I wrote a whole paragraph, a long paragraph about shame and what does it mean in our society. Why we constantly construct, that sort of sentiment, in our daily living. Be you alive or dead.
You should talk to Irish. In Irish culture, shame is a huge thing because they are Catholic. So in Catholic culture, you can never win because by being a human, you are guilty one. You can never win, especially in Catholic.
So does that relieve you of that situation, your transcendence? Because now you are one of the living paradise.
You die trying. You know, because you can never win. Because as long as you're human.
Yeah.
Because in Catholic culture, in Christian culture, you know, you can probably explain it, you know, better than I do, because you know, my knowledge about Christianity is so limited. But my previous project, I worked with a few Irish people, and then yeah, it's a shame. It's like ingrained, you know. They're told that they always have to be aware of their shame.
So
Because,
yes.
yeah.
How do you
countries in Catholic?
I think it depends on what kind of Catholic. There's so many
Irish Catholic.
Irish Catholic.
Yeah.
Not even Christianity. We don't have shame.
Catholic is Christianity. You mean Protestant?
Yeah, but yeah, it's very different.
No, but I think she's right. You know, I was in some kind of Christian secondary school and primary school. But you know, we are born with sins.
Original sin.
Original
Yeah.
sins, and in order to be like content or
Saved.
we have to ask for help, you know, from the higher power, or you name it. So I think it's embedded in us, in everyone. So it's I think not just in Irish Catholic. Then
It's quite hard in Irish Catholic. You know? Yeah.
I don't think you ask for help.
mm,
It's for me. I believe you just accept. You accept that you were born sinful, but you also accept that it's forgiven. So it's not like I can ask for it; it's already given. It's
So you
about-
cannot forgive yourself. Someone has to forgive you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I
That's the
think.
key.
That's the key. That's why you have that shame, because you don't have that power to accept or to make that decision, whatever you want to do. It has to be, I mean, excuse me,
To
you
say
know,
that you're
not,
right.
yeah, you have to ask for forgiveness so that you are not in control, so that it's always your fault.
So with through your encounter with these Irish Catholics, their sense of shame that they carry through their lives,
Yes.
how has that impacted their opinion of death? Would they have a very positive opinion about death? Because finally they are relieved. Would they?
It depends on individuals, I think, you know, and also how people perceive, you know, that you know, what kind of life that the deceased had lived. You know, if people think that he or she lived a good, you know, faithful Catholic life, then people might be relieved, because then they would believe that the deceased would be in, you know, nice place. Sorry, you know, excuse my ignorance, but you know what I mean by nice place. You know, they say it's very nice. You know? But so it really depends. Depends on individuals. Yeah. But I think, yeah, it's in general that, you know, that through death that you have an opportunity to be either sentenced or be saved. Yeah.
Well, I went to Catholic primary school and secondary school as well, and you can obviously tell I'm one of those outcasts, and the teachers and the nuns really hated me because I don't believe a word they say. But actually, anyway, when I remember in primary school, the picture painted to me was after your death, you wear white clothes. White robes, and then no shoes, because the soil of the paradise is so soft, or you are actually flying and you don't need shoes. And then for some reason everybody has got like golden curly wavy hair and
finally,
So but this picture and what we actually see in real life death, they're so disjointed. It's disjointed to a sense that you will not believe what you were told, because there's nothing to do with the real death that we see. And talk about shame, maybe shame is not the exact right word that should be used, so it's just something I have.
It's definitely a taboo.
Yeah, taboo.
Yes, it is.
Because like not just a few months ago, the father of a friend of mine passed away. So there was this funeral, and another friend of ours was well maybe not just in an exact case like this, but in the Chinese situation is if I were pregnant or if I just got married, something happy going on in my life, you cannot go to a funeral house because you will pick up the bad luck in that funeral place, and that is not good. But why not the other way around? I can bring some happiness to the funeral house, right? But no, death is a more powerful thing. It will spoil your happiness, something like that. So all this kind of thoughts is pretty much ingrained in me. So I can honestly tell you I don't weigh life and death on the same level because death is so negative to me all the while. So I think there are many reasons for this, but this is I think how we started with what interests me to start this conversation.
But for me, because what I believe after this is so different, like in Christianity. When my father passed away, and also when my grandmother passed away, we were not happy, but we were celebrating. My grandmother passed away in the hospital, but the moment she had her last breath taking, like we were all surrounding her. The moment that she was taking her last breath, her face became so peaceful. We were just looking at her for like, I don't know how long, and we were all like, wow.
You envy?
And maybe I want to, maybe not yet, but maybe I want to die like that. She was so peaceful, and we start like singing hymns, and we were like celebrating. Not that she's dead, but because we know what's coming.
Was this a Christian thing or a Korean thing?
Christian. Yeah. So I think, of course, culture is also very strong, but also what kind of religion, what kind of belief you're in, that kind of, because. But as a little child, like not a little child, I was early 20s, but when my father passed away, there was an automatic thought in my mind, like, what did my father do wrong? Why did he? So because we think the good person will live longer, good. So the moment of second, I thought I just keep getting surprised.
Yes, sometimes we also have that kind of
Yeah,
the good person should live long.
I used to say that a good person, will die very short.
That's your thinking, right?
No. Maybe it's just. In Korean culture, I think that people would understand if there was another Korean, they would know that what I'm saying, because sometimes.
This is another Korean.
But she comes from a very specific culture, not just Korean, but Korean Christian culture. So that's very specific.
It's totally different from Irish.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
So tell us more about it. So in Korea, people believe.
Of course, I think I just want to make it clear that, of course, because it's important that we kind of make it clear that we are generalizing things, here. So, but that's, I guess, that happens in any discussion. But I just wanted to.
Okay, let's go for generalization. Go ahead.
Yeah. So people say, when some people die, not very old, but not very young. So somewhere in between, maybe 40s, 50s, people will say that, because, he or she is a good person, a very good person that, he's taken, early. But it's not to just say, to
you know, like to say, to comfort you. Like when my father passed away, someone said, oh, you know what, even the pretty flower is picked first. Yeah, and like that didn't really comfort me. Like, oh, so what aren't you picked? Like, or like, you know, like,
of course, it's you know, in any understanding way, perspective about death is ultimately, I believe, is for the living. You know, because it's just us, not them. So of course it's all about us. You know, why do we believe that there will be a heaven? You know, we could say the same thing. Isn't that for us to think that, you know, he or she is somewhere nice? Yeah. So of course, yeah. You know, it could be that. Yeah, it could be like to comfort. You know, whoever's left behind or the deceased, to say that because he was, you know, a good person, he's taken early. You know, yes. But I think that's the same in everything.
But do you actually believe that?
No, I don't believe that because I have another belief.
I thought you were going to say, because otherwise I would have been died.
oh no, I am self-observed, but not that self-observed.
Well, but let me ask Fiona, when SunHee said the thinking that good people live longer, I share that because we have that in Chinese, right? So, how do you feel about that? Do you believe that?
Actually, I want to believe that like a person should live longer. Yeah, because when we talk good person, good heart. Yeah, he or she doesn't do something evil things. Yeah, she or he has to live longer. The evil person, yeah, should to death, die faster or something. Yeah, in mainland China, when I was young, my mom and then my parents and then my relatives always talking about the good person can live longer. That you should be a good person and then you can live longer.
Have you ever?
That means my mom's not a good person.
That means that living is a good thing. That's the basic assumption.
But that's what you said when you grow up, and if you see somebody really nice, dies really early.
But also see my closest friend, her father just passed away 3 years ago. Yeah, suddenly just passed away.
Yeah.
And then we were surprised, we were shocked. And then I was in Hong Kong because I couldn't go to her father's funeral. Have school study things. So my other friends, they went there and to comfort her. And I heard about the news about she was so strong. Like you said, she didn't cry. She was very strong and to host the whole funeral things. I was surprised. Whoa, she's strong. Maybe the death, the things approach. Yes, she didn't want to let her father just pass away, but it just happened. She has to accept that, and then that made her very, very strong. I was quite surprised. And then during this project, I was wondering maybe I can talk to her, but I didn't because I'm just worried about what if I talk to her, because based on our perspective of Chinese culture, maybe to make her to think about not good things. I think maybe make her cry. I don't want to do that, so I didn't ask. Yes, I didn't. Even I really want to, but because
Yeah. So this belief, good people live longer, as we just said, is based on the very basic moral foundation that living is good, death is no good. So that is a very clear value judgment in between being alive and being dead. Even though these two are just natural process. And I mean, something has to die so that something can be born, right?
Yeah, it's not just a natural process, they interdepend.
Exactly.
Each other.
Exactly. But at least based on what we were talking about just now, we were told since we were very small, death is no good. Even in the language we use on a day-to-day basis, we always associate bad people with death, like 死板頭啊，死人頭啊 that's the death, right? Yeah, or something like 點解你仲唔死啊 Why are you still alive? You know, this is a very wicked, well, it can be a joke, but it is also a very wicked way of saying, why are you still alive, right? You should be dead because you're no good. So that is what I was trying to talk about is, in our culture, there is such a strong value judgment attached to death. And I believe that has a strong influence on how we see the naturalness and the nature of death, and its role in our life as a living person, because it's actually ingrained in our life, right? And also, this word uselessness I think this is a very...
It's always in the deepest place.
Because I think useless, the negative value of that is getting worse now that we are in a capitalist society. And that leads on to uselessness.
I have a second thought about this though. You know, when we talk about why we treasure lives more, you know, we think good people will live longest because lifespan maybe 50 years ago or 100 years ago was short. You know, it's much shorter than now.
Like 30 years, 40 years old?
Yeah, ish. So when we see someone that lives for like 60 or 70, I think they must have done something good, you know. So they can enjoy life longer and see their like grandchildren or etc. But of course, you know, in this capitalist mind, you know, death is useless. You know, it has no surface value at all. But the other way to look at it is who is trying to spend the whole time to look after them. They are actually relieved by someone that just passed away. I was in Australia like a few months ago, and I bumped into a river cruise crew. Most of them is from Hawaii or somewhere in America. There's like a group of widows, and they were talking about the death of their husbands, like just engaging in a normal conversation over a tea party. Right? I think in a way they must be relieved in a way. So they are like traveling, enjoying. Look, to be honest, I'm not judging. They must have like a terrible marriage or whatever. No, but they are relieved because one, their loved one is not suffering anymore. Right? Secondly, they're not bound to take the responsibility to take care of someone that is not functioning well. That is actually a capitalist mind too. So I think it works both ways. We can actually celebrate about death, but it's actually still inside this capitalist mind.
Oh, there's no way out.
There is no way out because you have this dualistic frame. It's either a good thing or a bad thing. It doesn't have to be either a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, it's very binary, you know.
If you have that dualistic frame, it's binary. If you don't have the dualistic frame, it's not binary. It's just what happens.
That's why it's sort of weird when my father told us, well, you guys don't have to hold any funeral for me. I'm going to donate my body to the hospital. So I said, oh great, you know, you're making yourself even useful after you die, right? Amazing. But how many people could do that? Could do that, you know what I mean?
I carry a little card
Yeah.
that says that If I found that, they can take whatever.
I think that's changing nowadays. You know, we used to have to make certain or plans about our bodies, but have to put it in a certain place for the other people to visit or something. But nowadays we can actually plan to plant a tree on top of our bodies, or you name it. It's actually going back to the very nature of death. So we're actually creating a market too. Right? We have this death suit that we can put on, and then it actually stimulated the fungus and the mushrooms that grows in our body. That I don't know. It makes sense to me.
I think because people are not getting ready, or they don't want to face that, they don't plan the death. But I wonder, from all those people who are dead, really wanted those kind of funerals. It's for us. It's for our satisfaction that we want this whole cemetery with a big something, but maybe it's not their wish. Yeah, we never know. So, like what I did during the research was I wrote down how I want to die. What would my funeral be like? Very simple. I don't need a huge funeral. But if I haven't thought about it, or if I haven't planned about it, I don't know how they do it. They don't have to waste so much money, or getting the place, getting the right thing.
But somehow, for my opinion, I don't know, in Hong Kong, but in China, some people die, they have to make a funeral, and then make the funeral very big and huge to make them have some face. So in mainland China, face is very important thing in mainland China. Definitely Chinese culture.
I was actually thinking about that the same thing, because I was thinking, I was going to ask you, have you encountered a situation, not in your family, but among people you know, that the person's will, the dead person's will is to have a very simple funeral, but it ended up not a very simple one. Have you heard stories like this, or you actually encountered?
Well, actually, I read books written about people trying to get the coffin ready before even they die. And it's like a very popular story in Guangzhou. It caused really big issues, talking about people putting coffins in the houses.
Oh yes, and then they buy a site for their
buy a site for grave. Everything prepared, and yet they hack a lot of trees just to build a good coffin. And it becomes some kind of industry in a sense.
Yes.
And also, of course, we're talking about, when Fiona talking about the whole face issue. It's a serious problem, in Chinese culture. But I think if you go back deep down, way beyond, it wasn't like that. If you're talking about how Lou Ji and Zhang Ji,
Yes.
you're talking about when they're talking about death, you're talking about you're a part of nature, right? You are basically just returning back to nature.
So how do we think? How does that change? How does this change come along from the time, very ancient time, when somebody believes death is going back to nature, and then later on, buying a coffin, put it in the house, it's also a traditional culture actually.
So-called traditional culture,
they say
we do have to investigate on that. What happened in our education process? What happened? What took place?
And then now is we can ignore the will of the dead people because we think faith is more important. So how does that change has come along? I think this is something it's worth discussing.
Well, because we don't talk about death in our education. There is a very popular lecture, they say, if you go to Harvard, go to Yale, they talk about death as philosophy studies. This is something fundamental. If we really value living, we have to value death as well. Understand? Because once we are born, we are dying already. We're taking that path no matter what. So again, you know, when we try to avoid such a topic, you know, as we grow up, we have problems because we are leaving everything to the policymakers, you know, and why those policymakers, you know, will decide for you how you're going to bury and where you should be buried. Right? When my grandfather was allowed to die at home, it wasn't a problem at all. But now everyone has to die in hospital. Why? Doesn't make any sense.
Why were we not taught death at school? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Why were
I think maybe, I'm sure that there are many, you know, contributing factors, but maybe one of them could be that we don't know, especially when we encounter death, rather than, you know, when we just think about it. When it actually happens, we cannot maybe differentiate from what we feel about death and death. Is that okay? I can share a little bit about, you know, how we was talking about in one of our rehearsals. We were talking about death. Ara's father, so Ara was talking about her experience about, you know, her father passing away, and also in relation to what she believes about death, and then what may happen, you know, as she believes after death. So I asked, so if it's a good thing, why are you sad? So it's actually two different things. That what she may believe about the nature of death or what happens after death, that's one thing. And then how she feels is another thing. Of course they are related. Yeah, because how I respond to things is affected by what I believe. But sometimes not always. Yeah. So I going back to, you know, what you were asking about, why is that we're not told, you know, we don't talk about that. It's because we often feel sad when we lose somebody. Yeah. Even though in Ara's case that she believes that her father has gone to a better place. Yeah. But it is her experience that she felt sad. Yeah? But she still believes that he's gone to a nice place. But so I asked Ara, so you feel sad about losing him? Not that he died. Of course she lost him because he passed away, but you know, they're two actually different things. Yeah.
I don't think it's contradicting to the...
No, but they are different. They're not exactly the same. So maybe they're not contradictory because, like I said, you know, how you respond to things, either in feelings, in interpretations, you know, they are affected by what you believe. So they are not contradictory, but they are two different stages. So how you respond, you know, maybe in feelings. So how you felt sad, you know, how we feel sad when, you know, when we lose somebody, that might be read as, oh, it's a negative experience. Yeah, because sometimes, you know, people don't like being sad. So they relate just immediately without differentiating those different stages.
So are you suggesting because of this, the disjoint, maybe I'm not sure this is the right word, but the disjoint of what death actually is and how we feel about death, we cannot make it some sort of knowledge that could be taught or maybe not knowledge, but something that can be talked about at school.
It makes it hard. It can make it hard to face it because of how we might respond. You know.
Actually, I think basically there's no formula how one would respond to death.
No.
You know, I mean, just like what Fiona just mentioned about, oh, her friend's being strong. Well, it doesn't mean much to me, you know, for being strong in a sense, you know what I mean? Because it doesn't mean that she felt okay deep down, you know, but she thought she had to be strong at that particular moment and nothing more. And I think crying doesn't mean that she's weak, right? But somehow we just take that on as a sign of being weak. And crying is some kind of biological relief that's necessary. So when you feel bad, and what's wrong with that? So it's so easy that we cast a kind of judgment call on.
Yeah, because we're not facing it and we're not letting ourselves to actually go through that experience.
Yes.
That's what I mean. So it can make it hard to face and then actually go through the process. And then quickly we just think, you know, and then we just label it. Yeah. So, oh, it's a sad thing. Oh, it's a bad thing. Oh, it's you know, but we don't know actually. I mean, you know, and then also it could be different in each case. You know, whose death is it? What kind of death it was? You know, what kind of relationship I had? You know, that kind of things. But you know, what I'm saying is that you will have to go through actually what happens to know what it is for you. Yeah. So again, going back to what you were saying. So how, you know, what might be a reason? You know, one of the reasons that we are not given that time and space to actually reflect, you know, or to talk about, you know, what we might experience about death, you know, or losing somebody, you know, because then we quickly think that oh, it's a negative thing or whatever, you know. But yeah.
Well, to follow on your one, I also think maybe this is being negative. But I do think, at least in the education I have received since I was a kid, to be at a class is to learn something useful. So we have language class, you have mathematics, you have biology, you have blah blah blah. Even if you go to a religion class, a moral class, they are teaching you how to be a good person. How to live peacefully in a society, how to behave. Death has no role in any of these. Yeah. Because why tell me how to face death in moral class when we are talking about society behavior or something like that?
So you know how to behave at funeral. That's why.
Okay. And that's not about death itself. It's about the funeral, and that's why people think faith is more important in the funeral than what it means to the dead person. I try to think of all the classes I've been through. I cannot see how death can fit into any one of these classes, except for biology. But we can look at a dead person's body. Okay, we understand what is death physically, so you stop breathing, your heart is not working. But seriously, I cannot imagine if I go to an economy class and how they tell, what are they going to tell me about death if they were going to?
No, I think they're talking about it now.
Yeah, now
because people are getting age.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, they're talking about economy now.
But even if you go
because
to
it's a big market.
Oh yeah, it's a big market.
yeah, if you go even in a history class, you were told the number of people dead in a certain incident, they're just a conglomerate number, or you know, or some people are made heroes in history because they have done something
good
or something really bad. But no, it's not about death. It's not about death itself. So I don't know. I'm not sure if it is because we don't know how to teach it, because it's not something
but
we know or.
But I think there's a huge dilemma here. You know, this workshop in Chinese is 与亡者对话. It's like a dialogue with the dead, right? But you know, as far as I'm concerned, we are having like a dialogue among living people. So, no, I think that is the very fundamental thing that I was like intrigued by. Like, I was going through the notes that was on Facebook and stuff, and Marcus was trying to introduce the term of the living death. Right? I think that's how it's intriguing, because we can, how art can transcend the living into the experience of the dead people. But it is, I think, it's a very like an origin of performance art in a way. In like old tribes, when the shaman is trying to like channel the dead spirits into themselves. That is the dialogue I was like interested in, So we know actually what the dead is thinking, what they're trying to say to us. But it becomes something that is like something forbidden, society nowadays. Very superstitious. Of course, a lot of religions doesn't allow it to happen now. Christianity or maybe Buddhism, maybe yes, but So I think. When you think about shaman, they have a lot of stuff to help them to engage that death experience. For example, ayahuasca, is called the vine of death. It's called like herbal psychedelic drugs you can take, and a lot of people, like Western people, goes to the Amazon to take it, and they felt the experience of death and how it is after they're dead, and then comes back to life, and then telling about beautiful stories about it. I think those are like very important things, and might be that's how art is important in these senses. I think you're absolutely right about we just talk about the narrative of death is really about the living now, all the preparations, all the ceremonies, or you name it. So, but it is actually very limited, very not creative. When I think about death, Chinese people think that it's almost the same. They're just like invisible, but they play mahjong. They have to use money. They maybe use iPhones. It's true. We can actually have these like paper-made iPhones and we burn it. So
I love it. It's so kitsch.
I don't mind. It's just funny interpretation of that. But to me, that is so lack of creativity. How we think about what is beyond like living. It's actually pretty much the same. I don't really like it.
It's quite boring.
It's almost like playing a harp in heaven. But so I think. Going back to how art can interpret like what the experience of death or how the death is trying to say, that is very important.
Yeah, as far as I understand, shamans in Korean society even today, they have a very recognized status. Yeah, and they can make a living, and they're recognized.
Very expensive.
But you know why I was doing this just now? Because in our culture, at least in Cantonese culture, the Cantonese shamans are like crazy women. They are always depicted as half crazy, half whatever. Woman
it's very much in movies.
In movies.
Very superstitious.
Yeah.
Yes, you can joke about that. They always joke about that, and they always do this banging on the table, and they need one thing to call up the dead is rice.
Yes.
And you know what? I can really recall a very special day when I was young, around 6. My grandfather died, and of course he was baptized 2 days before he died, so that he could be buried in the Catholic cemetery. But the whole thing is about the whole Chinese culture. They're talking about he would return on a particular day.
Yeah, the 7th.
Right.
The 7th.
And then the whole family prepared for his return. I could still remember that day solemn. And I think it was a very special day for me. Because when you were a kid, you believe in anything that the adults would say. And that day was, the climate was totally, they have ice rain that day for a reason. You know, I could remember, this is very rare, I mean, in Hong Kong, have that kind of so-called lok mok.
No, we had that like 3 weeks ago.
Right. But I can remember that particularly. It's so dramatic because weather change and everything. And I could still remember where everybody was, you know, waiting for my grandfather's return. But I think that's special, in a way. You know, whether he returned or not, I don't know. You know, I couldn't tell back then. But in responding to what just said about in performing arts, I think it's not just talking about the dead, because I think we are experiencing death all the time. I mean, the last sentence, gone, passed away. So, I mean, if you're really activating your body and your senses, you're at the same time experiencing death in motion. I mean, that's how I read, you know, dying in the sense of living, because it's happening all the time. Not necessarily just the person who died, you know, but we rarely talk about that, you know, past events, past minute, correct?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. So, following up on that point, you know, what you made about what it is that you know, performing arts can provide, you know, for us to maybe wonder about what it might be. For me, and also following up on what you were saying about, you know, in every minute that we experience dying, maybe not death, but dying, is that, you know, for me, we have to start with, you know, being here. Because if death is not, if death is something that is being absent, then, you know, I repeat myself, but for me, there's always one more to being absent. Because by the definition of being absent, it means that there was something there.
Yeah.
You know, so for me, you know, for me, being here, it also means that being here and then not being here. So that, yeah, I know, whenever I say this in the quietness, you know, yeah. It's very good when you just want to shut people up. Yeah, so just you can use it in the future.
Sound effects out there.
Yeah. It could be a very quick and cheap trick, you know, if you just want to make people quiet. Yeah. So yeah, maybe so, you know, it was true for our project as well, but also in general for me, performing arts, you know, when I make work, either as the outside eye, or director, or as the performer, or as whatever, you know, I want to share that experience of being here and now, so that we know where we are, and then if that changes, then we know that changed.
I don't disagree with you, but trying to follow up, like using Huang's example, talking about how we expect the soul of the deceased person to come back on the 7th day after his death. When I was a kid, I'm sure you've heard something similar. We were told, prepare to hear sound of chains and to see a butterfly. Why chains? Because the dead will be in chains. They will be held by a horse and somebody with a horse face, and there are 2 jail guards.
That's how.
Yeah, it's a mixture of
mixture of everything.
yeah.
Well,
But that is often the case. It's always a mixture of things.
Yeah, but at least to me, that left a very strong impression on the kid when I heard it for the first time, because you will be so scared. It has all the fear elements in it, like jail guards, chains, and then ghost, somebody coming and then butterfly flying through at midnight, you know, everything. So now with all these some sort of ingrained, of course when I grew up I knew it probably did happen, I don't know, I was asleep. But it's not that easy to actually practice what you just said. which is
No, it's not easy.
to really acknowledge we are dying every moment that we are alive. Because first thing, it's really not an easy thing. And second, just now we were talking about, to a certain extent, in the context of us being in the performing arts scene, we all know what we're talking about. But if you go talk to a layman on the street, you're probably, they probably look at you more, And then the third thing is, to me, I have such a strong impression of that being associated with all what I just talked about. So for me to really recognize it's being part of me in my daily life, I think, I honestly, I cannot be quite sure if I'm telling you I can do it, whether it's because I can rationally do it, or if I can really feel it.
Can I just clarify? Did you say? Yeah, sorry for pointing at you. No, because I just want to make sure that I didn't misunderstand. You say so if we kind of share this kind of perspective with a workman outside, they wouldn't understand.
Well, I wouldn't in particular say what kind of people, but we're like what we're talking about, being here and not being here. This kind of conversation or this kind of what is this concept?
I'm afraid I have to disagree. Because if you go and talk to people who really use their bodies, either like for example farmers or like a neighbor, they understand what it means to be here and to be absent. Because the moment, for example, if you're a laborer, and then if you're not here, if you're absent-minded, you're dead.
Yeah, but the problem is
they might not be able to contextualize it, but they understand what I'm saying because they know.
But the problem is in a modern source, in a cosmopolitan life, we are using our bodies less and less.
I think that's the key. The absence of the body, the disappearance of the body.
Because we trust our mind too much, way beyond.
Because sometimes people don't know how to handle their bodies.
I think there's another aspect. I think we have to, if we're going, back to talking about the subject in the context of performing arts. It's nothing really. It's totally different. Say try to differentiate performing art from just like a farmer, workers, whatever. But there are certain areas that could still be aligning together.
I think,
because we're talking about experience. Because a lot of time we try to delete the experiential learning, the experiential awakening, or the experiential sense of existence. It's very much there. It's just that because of our work, we are able to contextualize the work and also to articulate, those details, journey, maybe. That's luxurious for many, But at least I think art is only a window for us to review reality, nothing more. But nowadays we talk about that as productivity. We're talking about as production, and that's the issues there,
I think that's why our 2 months of research process was really more for us. And towards the end, we were really talking a lot about how we're going to share this, the realization we had. And it was really luxurious for us, as Michael said, to really look back into what really is to be here, what is really to have all that. And it was luxurious because we took the time off. I don't know, I'm kind of a little bit worried once I'm out of this space, I will be back on that track of there is no
shame on you.
But yes,
But I don't think you have to worry about that. If you truly believe in experience, because it would transcend you.
yes.
Because it's like I said, it is indeed you, taking on that particular experience. But yet at the same time, when I was watching because you are transcendent, that kind of transcendental experience would open up alternative windows, for others.
This is for you.
So I think that's what we're talking about, whole performing arts. It's not just about, you have to begin with you first. If you can't even be honest about who you are, what you are, how are we going to share that experience?
I said the same exact thing after the formal discussion.
Yeah.
This one girl was asking us whether we went out and did a lot of interviews, did we read, or what kind of experience did we do? Like, did we all go together to hospitals or funeral? And yes, all those things, we had it in the plan before. But the moment we started to look at ourselves, there were so much things to discover within my own self. So we didn't have time to go out. There was no need to go out. Because if I don't know what's going inside of me, what's happening, how can I ask someone else? So the last 2 months was really, it's just the beginning, I think. But to just really know about what I have in me and just listening to myself, taking the time to be aware of what comes to me and what I can feel and how my breath is. There was just so much.
But I think the reality is, all things and new things we're always making dialogues all the time. When I was watching you both, in the rehearsal, I think on one hand you're experiencing something great happening in you, and at the same time there are some more habits, hunting you always, those little things, then you have to make, judgment and decisions. Always, just like living day in and day out, we always have to make that kind of decisions, little things, but they are all part of it, right? We tend to idealize, how things should be, especially when we're talking about artwork, right? As if, it cannot be complete. Now we have problems in it. I
was really surprised when SunHee allowed us to take the moment, take time to see or feel. For me, I'm so used to really performing, I have to perform, I shouldn't, there is it'll be shame for me if I have an audience there and I'm taking my time to, feel it. But I never had those kind of, I'm always trained to move on. You have all these steps coming, you have to do certain things. But really, carry on. But to really, just that, the freedom that I could really take time to feel what I feel was, it's different. So afterwards, during the process, when I went to watch a performance, or when I watch just people in MTR or in the in the MTR, or people sitting or walking, I just see very different, with a very different eye. Just seeing people, how they breathe, how they walk, how they eat, how they just standing there. Wow, a lot of people are dead, actually. Are you sure you see people, or are you saying something else?
Possibly that.
Yeah, true.
I think during this project, the most important thing is how to be honest, to stay the things happen. And don't lie to your
Don't lie to yourself.
for example, before he said the body cannot lie, right? So if you use something, the image comes, and then you be honest to respond, and then the body will tell. So also SunHee always remind us to be present, not be absent. I think also for the death, maybe before we also talk about maybe the funeral is for us, for the people who still living. Yes, also the things we have to really to how can I say that? Just I think we have to really to see what's happened for now. Yeah, the present is very important.
That's why picking up a word that SunHee just mumbling, next to me, said she's not really born in the right era. But
I keep just like
Yeah,
in home, but I always born in the wrong era. Bro, never in the right era.
But I think it's quite a contrast. That's precisely what we should be looking for. That what we should be reflecting upon. Because of the kind of era we're living in now. Everybody is being pushed to the limit for productivity. There's no leisure. There's no time for reflection. And what you did is just some kind of good reminder for everyone. Say, hey, maybe it's about time. We do have a choice. But it's up to you and me whether we take that kind of calm action and correspond, to the present. So I agree. In a way, it seems like, we always talk about the 19th century, when everybody could be so laid back and relaxed and have all the kind of observations. But why can't we? When we're talking about capitalism, being pushed to the extreme, and I think things bound to be responding in a very, very unique way without knowing it, because there are new waves going on now that people feel that there is a need, right, to make different choices. By allowing yourself to make that choice, hey, you all of a sudden feel the life in you back again. And that's wonderful. So I don't see that it's totally out of time, because this is timeless. That's what it's all about. So the topic of death to me is about living.
Yes. It's really when I really thought about death. It's when I really saw how I live, how people live, how people breathe. Yeah. If I just really look at people, just how people live, then it's like, how can we talk about absence when we don't know what's present? And it's always talking about just one side of my body. To share that, the first thing I realized during the process was that I have a back. I always look in the front. I always know what's going on inside my body, like the front parts. I don't know how many spots I have and what's going on with my back. But it's always part of me. It's always together. They're not separately. They're always together. And didn't realize that.
But I think we're being very fortunate as performing artists, having a better awareness. I just met a friend. It's my brother's good friend. He encountered a liver transplant, last year. And he's in heavy debt. All the burdens, the fear, the anxiety. From within, you could feel it's very much there. Of course, financially, I'm not really in a position to help him out. But the thing is, I said, we could live one day at a time. I said, let's learn a little bit about breathing. So that you can ease the pain, or maybe you can heal yourself. You don't have to see a doctor that often. And yet you can see, what I really want to overcome is my financial burdens. There's something to him is immediate, but to me that's not immediate, because you could still survive in the next year or so. But without contemplating the self at work, you may not be able to live that long. Right? I don't know, it's just speculating, of course. But again, that's going back to what Joanna brought up. Fear, originally hidden in that box book.
Now it's
Because we all grow up, you know, with people around us, you know, really constructing such deep level of fear and anxiety in us all. And that's not right. That's not what a good society should be, you know. And that's the evil, in a way, back when talking about the capitalistic society, because we're only talking about profits. We're only talking about extra.
And also, you know, they
make money.
They make
Out of
money.
fear.
Yeah.
There's good money.
And also politicians, especially the extreme right wings.
That's right.
They play with fear.
Yeah, that's
It's
right.
happening in Hong Kong now.
Now in Korea, now, you know, if you
Yeah.
have North Korean, you know, it's like, you know.
We have a big legislative
Yes,
coming up.
Yes.
Discussion.
That's why the whole thing is happening with North Korea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
All right, that's about it. I think anybody has anything else to add?
We can talk about the subject for life.
we just,
Yeah. So, yeah. SunHee keeps holding her uselessness like
I
this.
like it.
You know? You can have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think this is one thing that's been missing, talking about that word solitude. And I think a lot of us, you know, are sort of running away from that word. But yet, this is so beautiful in a sense, because that's important self-empowerment. You know, I mean, only through that particular state of being, you're able to touch base with the self, you know, at work from within. And we often substitute that word with loneliness.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not right, because we gotta learn, we gotta have courage to confine ourselves, to enjoy solitude every now and then.
And I think if we really take the time and then really see what's happening when we are on our own, I cannot speak for everybody, but you know, I can really see that I can never be alone.
You're never alone.
I'm never alone. Even if I live, you know, in the middle of nowhere up on the Himalayan mountain, you know, I can never be alone.
Because you'll be surrounded by mosquitoes.
yes, you know. So I don't know, you know.
Always something there.
You tell me how to be absolutely alone, you know, because I want to be alone, you know. So yeah, it's if you can be really alone, then you know
You're enlightened.
you know. Yeah. So
But the thing is, somehow, you know, I mean, in the whole process of upbringing, that we lose contact with that beauty. Because for kids, you know, they're very good with themselves. They imaginary things. They play. Right?
We
They
can
don't
talk.
have their problems. But how come, you know, as we grow up, we get scared?
Yeah.
You know, we worry about that we're getting lonely and all that kind of things. But,
I don't. I think it's natural for all.
Yeah, that's right.
Really feel alone or loneliness.
That's right.
Yeah, I never know loneliness because I'm never alone.
There's so many things to do, you know, just in your head or.
Yeah, they're just like what I'm doing. It's already from not me things. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, just me being me is being whatever else.
So it's an unkind dialogue between the dead.